Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Midweek Takeaway. Today we're joined by Alastair Clayton, Executive Director of Artemis Resources. Welcome, Alastair. How are you doing?
Yeah, great, Phil. Great to be here.
So firstly, welcome to AIM. Welcome to London. Monday was your first day of dealings. So why did you choose London as an Australian-based and ASX-listed explorer?
Yeah, good question, Phil. It was very simple. I think we all know the fabulous story of the discovery of Havieron, etc. And that was, I think I said in my previous work, was an historical quirk that it was made by a London-based, UK-based company. For that reason, there's a huge knowledge base. There's a large number of investors that know the story, have made money in the story, and will make more money in the story. And for that very reason, you know, we wanted to tap into that zeitgeist over here. We've got a fantastic shareholder base in Australia. Interestingly, even before we listed on AIM on Monday, over 30% of our share register was already UK institutions and high net worths. So it's not like the story hadn't been started to pick up, but we thought we'd spread our wings into London and give everyone an opportunity to own our stock.
So do you want to talk us through? I mean, obviously quite a lot of UK investors won't know the Artemis story. Do you want to talk us through what it's all about and some of your proven asset?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'll start at sort of the base valuation and tick off who we are and what we are. Our most advanced project is the Greater Carlow project, and you may have seen our RNS this morning talking about drilling kicking off there. That has a really nice resource, and it's a growing resource, but I think more interestingly, the exploration team has taken a step back, and we've realised we've got so many places to drill. We have a target of getting to 1 million ounces of gold copper equivalent this year. It's a gold copper project with very strong copper grades as well, which we love. So we're moving that forward, but that's still really in the exciting phase of how big is it. You know, the management and the exploration team are arm wrestling over where to drill holes, not scratching our head over where to drill holes. As part of that, we have a plant about 20 kilometres away. It's not ready to switch on. It's got permitting for gold production. But again, that plant will need some work. But that's a really neat asset, and that has a book value of about 11, 12 million pounds. So we're just sort of creating that base valuation. But that project is just going to be drill this year. And as I said, that's kicked off today. Over and above that, I think probably for London investors, I suppose, kind of the jewel in the crown of exploration in Australia, or show me a better exploration project, is obviously surrounding the fabulous Havieron discovery. Neurology is a bit of a mug's game. You can claim many things, and it's great to be near something. But the most important thing is, do you have the geology, the structures, and the reasons to believe that you may have another Havieron or two on your ground? And the simple answer is we do. Okay. The geology, all of that work's been done. We began drilling at the end of last year. And again, we saw some very encouraging geology. We don't have assays yet. But that's really the play. And 2022, as evidenced in our RNS, is just going to be 24/7 drilling in the Pattersons as well.
Welcome, Alastair.
Thanks, Kev.
The land that you own is basically a continuation of what Havieron is, yes? Geologically and every other way, it's basically the gold system just continues on.
Look, can't say the gold system. That'd be slightly disingenuous because we haven't.
Okay.
We're just starting.
Okay.
But the structures, and I believe, and our team believes, and certainly as evidenced by where Newcrest are drilling and we're drilling, which is very, very close to each other now, it looks like the system may well continue. So yes, there's a quote unquote corridor that is quoted by them and then by us, and it does appear that continues.
Okay, so if you stuck the diamond drill rig in, which you're going to do this year, and prove this corridor, then, what are we talking about? What's the potential gold? I mean, I saw your assay results there today. That's from the same ground, I presume.
No, that's from the Carlow project.
Okay, so let's talk about that in a minute, okay?
Yeah, sure.
But if we stick all the RC drilling in there, I mean, the amount of ground you have, potentially, how big could this be? Could it be, is it big enough to be another Havieron, or is it going to be a smaller Havieron, or a bigger one, or what?
Kevin, I would take either of the options that you've just given me, to be frank. Look, the simple reality in terms of sort of quantifications are difficult and, dangerous game in this business as a public company. But let's just say this. Where the game changer is for us is there's a mine under construction 1.5 kilometres away, right? Okay. Yeah. That then creates a centre of value creation for those shareholders. And that's obviously been trucked to Telfer. And I know you guys know this because I listened to your Great and Gold podcast. We then have an opportunity to leverage off that. Now, what does that mean? Believe it or not, us miners, we might be all sort of gruff and beer drinking guys and girls, but we're pretty pragmatic when it comes to it. Because at the end of the day, when you've got a huge fixed asset at Telfer, that is what we call a hungry mill. Javier on stage 1, 2 is going to do a hell of a job trying to even cover X% of that hungry mill's daily input. So what everyone wants to do is to find further discoveries and to fill that mill, because if you fill a mill, you get the optimum financial outcome. So our goal is simple. For the moment, we're just looking to make discoveries and then drill resources. Now, how big that is or how big that isn't, well, the geological gods will make those derivations. But I think there's a couple of key points. The one I just made about leveraging off an existing operation and coming to, and there are no commercial arrangements between us, to be clear, but there may be in the future with discovery. The second point is that we own 100% of our ground. Okay, so I think the Australian market maybe has misunderstood why that is. Oh, they must have the bad ground because they haven't done a joint venture with everyone. The exact opposite applies. Having done decent-sized mid-cap M&A in mining in Africa and elsewhere throughout my career, I know one thing. You need to find resources and reserves to make big companies pay. So whether or not we build our own mine or whether or not we sell a resource to some other operator, well, that's a decision for the future. But at the moment, we're focused on discovery and drill out. And that is our philosophy for the Pattersons. And all the while maintaining 100% ownership of our ground. I mean, just one last sort of historic point. If you look at this sort of Tetris map of license holders out there, there's an innate sort of ability sometimes you think that the decisions of those boundaries are made on pre-existing knowledge. Those license boundaries were drawn up 25 years ago before Javier was even discovered. So I think, as I said to you guys off camera, through a combination of good luck and good management, we managed to get that ground, and we're going to leverage as hard as we can off.
Yeah, or Telfer probably was discovered even, or that's the time that they were all the lines were drawn, Absolutely. How big is the plant at Telfer, just out of interest, how many million tons can it take?
I'll give you an idea of scale. It's an absolute monster. Okay, so it's often quoted about 20 to 23 million tons per annum. Okay, to give your listeners an idea, a sort of decent size, a big gold mine in Western Australia, a modern one would be 4 to 5 million tons per annum. Okay, so
that's 20 to 25 million tons of rock.
That's front end milling capacity, as quoted by Invest. Yeah, and that has both a gold and a copper circuit.
Though it's a different place. The copper grades that you came, we'll come on to that one now. So, I mean, basically, just to recap, you have basically got you can't tell them, but I can suggest that effectively you've got an extension of Havieron, and how big it is, nobody knows. But within the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to find out.
We are not going to die waiting. I can promise you that.
And you've got a magical figure, not a magical figure, but we've discussed the figure that I guess the market or that people will wake up and take you seriously. Do you want to tell us about that, sort of roughly what that figure would be?
Yeah, look, I think that more applies to our Carlow project, but 1 million ounces gets you taken seriously, right? It's the sort of, it gets you on the bus of serious gold, development. I think that's pretty common. That allows you to scale a small plant, etc. But, as I said, at Patterson's, our play is very much on the exploration, discovery, build a resource, and then talk to whoever about whatever. I think Kevin's correct. We feel the corridor keeps going. We certainly know that other published maps from, $40 billion gold companies do also. They think that it may keep going well.
But again, with N,
the proof is in the drilling, and that's what we focus on. But yeah. Elsewhere, as you say, over at our Greater Carlow project, we're at 655,000 ounces now, equivalent gold copper. We want to get that to at least 1 million by the end of the year. I think I'm very, very confident we can do that through great exploration drilling, which is, it's not really exploration, it's just extending a resource that's already just getting bigger in multiple directions. So provides really high, and I think you can see that by the results we've published between December and now, some of which we picked out in today's RNS. We didn't just hit a few good holes, we hit zillions of good holes.
Yeah, those copper grades are wow.
They are wow.
6% copper is like,
yeah.
Everybody, if you get 0.6% copper, everyone's like, oh, that's good. If you've got enough tonnage, that's
widths. This is not. We're not drilling down dip. We're not. This is what it's shaping up. Yeah, look. Carlow's an interesting one, and it causes a problem for our resource modelling team because they sometimes come in and go, should we make it a gold mine or a copper mine? Because especially what we're drilling at Crosscut today, it really is a very high grade copper. Intercepts with very nice gold, really high gold as well. It's very much pendulum between copper, gold, copper. But hey,
there's an additional 225 meters of strike that I think were identified, which need to be further drilled, right?
Correct. And that sits between drilled here and a resource here. So it's not just going off into nowhere. That's just what we call closing the gap.
So how would that resource come out then? Are you gonna create a copper gold solution, or how would it work, do you think?
Yeah, really good question. And only preliminary network's been done so far. It looks like there's a decent gravity component on gold, which basically means, as described, it basically comes out in a gravity circuit, which is one of the simplest ways to liberate gold going. Copper, we see standard flotation. Bit early, we've just started. We're going to be kicking off some more network at the moment, just to get that, because at the end of the day, selling copper is about selling a concentrate, right? When I began in this game, you used to basically have a finished product, to have these beautiful copper sheets, SXEW, and you'd sell copper metal. That doesn't happen anymore. There's a huge market for concentrates. Filling furnaces, you have positives, you have high grade, you have negatives, you have deleterious elements, and it really is just an economics game. But yeah, we don't see anything too stressful in that.
Yeah, because copper's rising today; it's getting close to its all-time high again, and I can see $11,000, $12,000, $13,000 a ton anytime soon. To be honest,
Kevin, show me where the Western world is going to source its copper from Western countries. Okay.
Yeah.
Because if we're all going to be driving around in Teslas and things like that, I still can't put my finger on where the Western world is going to be able to, because copper, in my view, will be the new oil, and it will drive geopolitics. Yeah. But anyway, I digress a little.
And we're noticing in the last few sessions that people are that money's coming out of tech stocks into the copper, into the small cap juniors, because tech companies need that to drive their product, right? Totally. And look, big corporates want to put their, we see it in cobalt and nickel. They want to put their foot on where that material is coming from rather than being reliant on the market. So, just again, one of the things that we love about what we're doing, and look, I've done a lot of work in Africa and other countries, I'll say this again, not only with our Carlow opportunity as an awesome opportunity, but the Pattersons, everything I'm doing in, and sorry for being a son of the soil, but Western Australia is still the greatest mining jurisdiction in the world, bar none. And so I can invest my money and shareholders can invest their money knowing they're not going to have it stolen off them by, various regimes or whatever may or may not happen in the world. And that allows you to be really, I don't like the word aggressive. That's not really what I'm talking about. It allows you to be really expansive with what you do. And it's why that's why we want to maintain 100% ownership of our projects for now, because I don't have to hide behind anyone's skirt.
Carlow is also 100% owned then, yes?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so let's just dig a little bit deeper. You said 655 ounces of copper, or copper gold, or gold copper, whichever one you want to view it as. And your aim is to have that at 1 million or 1 million plus by the end of this year, 2022. Yep. So, I'm sure there's been some million ounce sales of product, or not product, sorry, of resource and JORC resource. What sort of value would be on that alone?
Yeah, look, good question. It is a slightly subjective argument, but look, you basically have a risk matrix when I mean, there's a lot of gold and mining companies fully cashed up out there, so I'm sure they're looking for projects to buy. Ours isn't for sale. It might be for sale one day. Who knows? But you go through your risk matrix, and I'm sort of starting from the top corner, going to the bottom. Obviously, jurisdiction, massive tick, so we don't have to worry about that. No one can come to you and say, well, I want a discount because I don't like where you are. You're in Western Australia, move on. Okay, so that's great. You then basically look at a couple of things. You look at your indicated and your inferred resource. We're mainly inferred at the moment, which is the lowest category, but we will move that up because we've already got a high density of drilling, right? But basically, we want to spread our wings and see how big this thing can be. Can it be 1 million ounces? Can it be more? I mean, really, that is a moot point at the moment. You have a valuation range you put on, and that is driven by all of the above. It could be, there's ranges between sort of 20 and 65 US dollars an ounce in ground. It's not necessarily a linear curve. It can be a sort of exponential curve in terms of quality, which is why we get back to the 1 million ounce that we've been discussing in the morning. 655 is great, but 1 million ounce can be worth a hell of a lot more because it's non-linear.
Yeah.
Right? And this is what drives the investment decisions that we make. It's
exponential as it goes up, obviously, because
absolutely
the AISC or whatever drops, the more you can get out the ground. So
you got it, 100%. So that's basically our theory. And so that leads you to make decisions as a management team to say, put X dollars in to achieve an outcome of Y, because Y will be exponentially bigger than X. Okay. Yeah. And every project will eventually flatten out, believe it or not. They do. They sort of, the sexy period's over, etc.
Yeah, the economies of scale eventually drop off.
And also shareholder interest. But, we're right at that bottom of that launch pad of that exciting bit, and then once you get into the more sort of nuts and bolts stuff, your investor class changes. But that's cool.
Yeah. So basically, what I see anyway is that Carlow is probably your market cap at the minute, if we want to estimate, and you get the new Havron for free.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I can't say that. I'm not disagreeing with you. And
didn't say it.
Maybe I can't say it either.
Yeah. Look, there's research out on us that completely agrees with everything you just said, Kevin. Okay, so let me be slightly diplomatic and say that. But look, that's our investment case to investors is, we simply lay out resource, Radio Hill plant, fixed value, our other financial assets in other companies which have, 10
value
plus of tangible value. You add those pieces of the cake together and your market cap's at the same level, and then you have kind of what I think is the best exploration project in the world for gold and copper on top. It's a pretty big cherry, right?
So just to be clear then, the assets you have in the company, you talked about the plant that you have. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Radio Hill was bought by the previous management team. It's a small plant. It was actually a nickel plant. They began refurbishing, spent about sort of 15 million Australian dollars refurbishing it with a view to some short-term production. I think what we've done as a management team is taken a broader view, as discussed. We want to be 1 million ounces minimum before we start looking at any sort of capex or like that on the plant. What does that mean? It means the value is there in the property, plant, equipment, but probably more so that plant is permitted for gold production, okay, and tailings placement, which from an environmental perspective will save you time, and we all know time means money. So we've got that on care and maintenance at the moment. We use it as our exploration and logistics base, so it's used every day. We have staff based there right now. So all our drilling, all our stuff, all our drill core goes there, all our samples, all our XRF guns and all these sort of things are there. But yeah, it's another little cherry on top, right? And it's the only plant in that area that is permitted.
So this is next to Carlow, yeah?
It's about 20 k's from Carlow, okay, which is no trouble distance-wise. There's already haul roads already built there for other things. So, but again,
very good.
We want to keep the story really clear. That's sitting there, and it's I'm probably the only person in the industry that talks down owning a plant. But I want people to focus on drill, because that's our message.
Yeah. No, I'm just getting an idea. As you said, it's worth maybe 11 or 12 million pounds.
It is. Look. We have a book value of that of about 21 million Australian dollars, which is about 11 or 12 million pounds. And we see no reason why that shouldn't be the book value at the moment.
Yeah, and you suggested also that you hold stocks in other companies then within your company.
Yeah.
What sort of value do they have?
Yeah, absolutely. Very quickly, when we took over as a management team, the company had too many projects. It didn't, you can't move forward 10 projects, right? It's expensive. You don't have the money, and it costs money to hold projects. Everyone forgets that. So what we did is we've used all the levers. We've done cash sales. So we sold some ground back to Novo, big medium-sized Canadian company that yielded about $8 million. But the current portfolio of investments, we span out our battery metal assets that we don't have time, personnel or money to work, and they're great projects, and we put them into a listing, an IPO in Australia that listed in January on the ASX called Green Tech, GRE.AX is the code. It's been a big success. Came on at 20. I think it was 30 today, but it's been upwards of 35, and it's powering ahead. And we own 15% of that. Okay, we're escrowed for a while, but that's an asset that not only is a financial asset for us in the future, which means less shares we ever have to issue to pay for more drilling, but it also means we reduce our cost overhead. Our other asset, which has again been announced, which should hopefully close in a few weeks, is the Money Platinum sale to Alien Metals, which is UFOs, the code here in London. And again, our look-through value of that is about 3.8 million sterling. So, and again, that's escrowed, but we have a staged escrow on that. And, at a future point in time, I'm very confident that stock will be a lot more before we ever let any go. But, again, we have financial assets over and above our current bank balance of about 12.5 million Australian dollars. So you can see, we're pretty keen to get the rigs turning, and we've got the bank, we've got the bank balance to back that up.
So you have stock in Alien Metals, then? That's what
we will have stock. Again, the deal hasn't closed. We're just waiting, unfortunately, the government department that has to sign off on it's been on an extended holiday in Australia, but they promised to get back to us. Yes, that is a stock deal. Okay.
It is the summer, and they're probably at the beach, so it's okay.
No comment, Your Honour.
Okay, because Alien Metals got a lot of upside as well. It's got a lot of different projects going there, so potentially could do well.
It was a great synergy deal because their Elizabeth Hill project literally backs on to our project.
Okay, so it makes Elizabeth Hill bigger, basically, yeah.
It's part of that. So look, put 2 and 2 and come up with 10 kind of is my 12, kind of math, right?
24.
Yeah.
Whatever number you want.
What shareholders can obviously look forward to. I was just looking through the Patterson highlights.
Yep.
And obviously you mentioned that drill rigs have been secured to restart drilling at the Patterson Central, expecting to arrive, mid-March, depending on, because the weather's been pretty favourable from what I can gather. What can, investors or potential investors look forward to in terms of news flow coming forward from that Patterson and obviously moving on to the phase 2 as well?
Yeah, look, the things that are in our control, as you say, we've got the rigs and the weather's been kind and long may that stay. And, realistically, if we could be out there sort of week 2, week 3 of March, I think that's probably a month ahead of schedule. But again, let's just hope there's no cyclones come through at the last minute. Basically, drilling restarting. We're drilling around what we drilled some really good-looking stuff that I'm sure you've seen the pictures of available on our website and our RNSs. In Australia, of some really good-looking stuff that seems to have some very strong analogies to kind of what we thought we were looking for. That's great. I don't think we've got a HAD 5, but I think we've got some hopefully some indications. Those assays, look, realistically, guys, I'm sure you hear this a lot from mining companies. Those assays are quite a way off. It's just a reality. Okay, there's nothing I or anyone else on this planet can do to make that happen quicker. They'll be well into March, those assays. We'll be drilling again before we see those assays, okay? What do we want to see in that? Look, we want to see the presence of gold and copper, of course. And that then just helps us, drill the next hole. Interesting, Javier had 11 or 12 holes into it before HAD 5, the great discovery hole, right? Looking in the revision mirror, we all knew where they should have drilled the first 11 holes, but that's unfortunately not how this game works. And the same applies to us. We use vectoring, we see some gold, we get some sniffs, we move in. So you should be looking for that. Look, I don't like to talk too much, or I have in the past, but I will. But it's really important what our neighbours are doing. If you have a look at our presentation, and I think a lot of your Greatland shareholders will know this, Newcrest are drilling a couple of 100 yards away from us across the magical licence boundary where God tends to put gold deposits because he's got a sense of humour. He does, trust me. So we're also going to have a look at what results they get. Now, Javier on North, quoting Newcrest's quarterly that was out last week, they saw Javier on alteration only a couple of 100 yards from where we're going to be drilling again. They said it didn't have any gold in it, but, you can be really close. Maybe the next hole will hit the gold. But the Javier on system, and I'm using their language, not mine, they believe it continues up, as you sort of mentioned, Kevin, at the beginning of our podcast. There were 2 other holes drilled on the target they call Zipper. Zipper continues across the magical tenement boundary to where we drilled what we like the look of as well. We haven't seen the results of their drill holes. I could only guess that they will probably have them before we have ours. Whether or not they publish them, that's their prerogative, not mine. So, it then becomes a learning phase. And look, there is good relationship between everyone, believe it or not. Even when there's billions of dollars at stake, people tend to be pretty friendly. And information sharing helps everyone. What we find or don't find helps the Greatland Newcrest JV and vice versa. So, we're all trying to create value from what we think is an incredible gold discovery.
I'm loving the names of those, like Voyager, Juno, Apollo. Someone was either a big Star Trek fan or into Mars exploration probes and stuff like that.
Yeah, we threw in the odd US carrier there, but yes, I'll have to take some time for that.
To recap, based on the numbers you were telling me, basically there is 16 to 17 million sterling of not liquid assets, but illiquid assets, okay. In terms of your company. You have a project that has 665,000 ounces of inferred. It should go higher in terms of where it goes, and hopefully going to be 1 million or 1 million plus by the end of 2022.
Correct.
And you have, hopefully, when you put the diamond drilling in there, an extension to Havron. So you get all of this for £50 million.
That is our offering to you.
So decide whether you think there's any upside there. Good luck.
Correct.
Alastair Clayton, Executive Director of Artemis Resources. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Kevin.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.